Today I'm going to talk about what people call a bowler hat, for I've learned an enormous degree as regards those and their history. So let me start by the beginning. This actually is not a bowler hat, although people call it a bowler hat. I do not like to call them a bowler hat. I already sort of explained why, but now I know more about the construction and we'll just be venting. So basically, this is from the, first of all, I said this was from the 1930s or 40s, or even perchance very early 50s. In the last video I talked about that hat. I was wrong. I since learned an enormous degree. If you're interested, type on Google Fedora Lounge, bowler or derby. And the Fedora Lounge is the best forum for learning about hats, not just fedoras. Because people keep showing the photographs of they're usually collectors, and they have these threads, and that thread has been going on for about now almost 15 years. It is 125 pages long, and you may think, well, I will never read that. Well, if you simply read 10 pages per day, it takes you 2 weeks. So, you know, to read all the pages, and an enormous amount of knowledge is upon that thread, at least about bowler hats, but even this often applies to hats in general. So this is actually from the 30s, most likely (1935) max, could be late 20s, like 1929, more likely 1930, let one say, to 1935, and it is French. Anyhow, so, but let us go way back. What does one mean by a bowler hat? If one means anything that has a dome shaped, then even a fedora is a bowler hat, because a fedora, if one pops it out, it is a dome shape. So dome-shaped hats exist since, I mean, at least since, probably since at least 1,000 years, because probably in Central Asia have the gok that today are called the Turks, were wearing sheltered hats, and they may have had sort of dome shaped with slight brims and all of very different varieties. So no, what one means by this story they keep telling about the bowler hat, linked to Thomas, I think he was called Thomas Cook, spelled Coke, like C-O-K-E, but it is pronounced Cook, Lord Thomas Cook. This story is way more recent, and thus this is not a Cook hat. They call it a Cook hat or bowler hat. So that is the actual story. It's not a legend. It is absolute truth. It is verifiable. That very interesting, the evolution. Type on Google the hatted professor derby hat construction. He knows an enormous degree. He knows the entire full story of why in America they then called it a derby, and the true version of that. It is super interesting. Anyhow, so in 1849, so wait, let's go even further back. So they had we established that they had round domed hats with brims, and you know, since a very long time. But in the late, probably in the 1770s, or at least by 1780, they were making Gossamer hats. Even this one contains Gossamer. But let one concentrate more on this order. This is from 1875, most likely. It is entirely original, because I wore it quite a bit. It's actually too snug, so I stopped wearing it. I talked a lot about that hat. Now the band is all ruined from wearing and from polishing it, the hat band. Anyhow, it is actually too snug. It has my head, so I stopped wearing it. So rather than, you know, repelling it, which would mean changing the band and the inside also, maybe repair it would no longer be original, I'd rather keep it like that, since I would no longer wear it anyhow. So they created Gossamer hats. So again, what is Gossamer? It is either calico, which is a weave of cotton, but sometimes it is linen, that is soaked for weeks into a shellac solution. Shellac shellac is the excrements of bugs left on trees in the South Asian countries. It is hard, but they melt it, put some water in, they dilute it. The harder one desires the shellac to be, the less diluted with water it is. They cook it and all, and then they dip that linen or that calico cotton in it for weeks. It becomes very hard, and then over a stove, like, they heat it once it is very hard to form it and to create hats. And then once they apply a sheet, they may put some more shellac, melted shellac, to apply another sheet, making it much harder and much stronger. It does not become stiffer, because see, this crown is only one. So I said I was not sure if behind the silk lining, first of all, this silk lining is not actually cheap. I said it was cheap. This is actually an expensive silk top hat. So if this was pre-made as off the rack, this would have been the best available. One of the best, because the silk has special quality, which probably means that it probably comes from France. There's likely perhaps limes, where it is one of the feelings that it had been invented in limes in France. We know it had been invented in France, but it is not quite sure it was limes, but anyhow. So the silk lining is actually good quality, but it is a very thin silk that does not last long. And how they have it hold like that is, and this, when they repair top hats now, and even in the past, they could not replace it with the same, because the only way it holds up, see, also in the back it holds up, against the Goss hammer. So this that I'm touching is the Goss hammer, and it is still quite hard. It looks like cardboard. People think it is cardboard, it's not cardboard. Anyhow, how to make the crown? If one observes, there is here, a very, especially when it is highly polished like I have done it, one may see a sort of slight diagonal where there's sort of a hem. And this is very hard to make impeccable like that. It's actually the silk plush being sewed in. And that was how the Goss hammer was cut. Or the Goss hammer was probably sewn like that. So because it would be too complicated to take a sheet of Goss hammer and cut it in one piece. They may have done that for the best of the best hats, but relatively always what they did was they cut it in one length and then closed it. They did not sew it. It was closed thanks to the varnish that they would have. So they would have a, for example, with this hat. So the first hats were not quite like that, but they would make the same. So they would have the hat block in many pieces. It has to be many pieces because it is an hourglass shape. So otherwise, when they would take out the block from the crown, the created crown, it would mess up the shape the hat created. So it usually came in 3 pieces or more. Take that sheet of Goss hammer that is hard. They heat it over that flame. It is not, no, they will also soak it and heat it. Pull it around that crown, not the crown, the form, the crown form. Then it is all soaked in Goss hammer on the outside, so take ever so slightly, there's one ply going over the other, so that once it dries, it is stuck. And then, to do the exact same thing for the top is a separate piece, this top here, and it will be stuck, so it will be glued. Once this is, kind of dry, perhaps not completely dry, to add more shellac, and they stick the silk plush. And then they will have to kind of sew it, I think, here, but not on the top. I think on the top it was not sewn. No, it must have been. But this they sewed beforehand. The top